Hello tiny house and off-grid people. Today, with a little bit of inspiration from two lovely ladies at my local thrift shop, I'm going to show you how you can cook a meal on a can of beer. So the ladies at this particular thrift shop, I know them both, and they sometimes put things to one side that they think I might be interested in, or put things to one side if they're not sure what they are. And they asked me as soon as I walked in yesterday, what do you think this is? Do you think it's an antique? Do you think it's worth anything? I was like, oh, slow down, slow down. As soon as I took it off her and opened it up, I realised what it was. I'd never seen one with the covers on before, but the circle of tiny holes around the rim woke me up to the fact that it was an alcohol hiker's stove. They run on methylated spirits or on ethanol or any other alcohol fuel, and they put out an incredible amount of heat. This little device that I was showing you then is the snuffer, and because it's got a screw-on lid, you can store the fuel in the stove. So if you're just going away on an overnighter, it holds enough meths for a couple of boil-ups, and it's very compact and leak-proof, and all you need is that and a billy, and you've got a way of cooking a meal. Now that got me playing, and I dug out some stuff, some cans. So here I've got a tuna can and a baked bean can. These cans have all been made into various types of alcohol stove. Parts of it can be used in different ways to have different effects, to slow the flame down or speed the flame up and give it more heat. This one is a grunter. It's good for a big pot of mussels boiling 2 to 3 litres of water. These little ones are the same as a gas stove burner, and by putting this trivet over the top you can spread the flame for bigger pots. Very simple to make. See, there's all these different options, different ways that you can put them. The pot can go on the top like that. Here you see it can go inside so that you can put a great big skillet fry pan on top of it in complete safety, and once again spread the flames over the whole base. Now these two burners have very different characteristics. You'll see that the one on the right that I'm holding now is very slightly bigger diameter than the one on the left. The one on the left has a bigger gap between the inner and the outer wall, so it doesn't heat up as much and you get a slower, longer burn. They're both exactly the same height, but the one on the right has the twin wall system very close together, which makes the meths inside it heat quicker, burn faster, produce more heat. So we're going to make one. These are the tools that you'll need: a good strong craft knife, a pair of old scissors, don't use your best ones, a push pin, the same that you'd use in a map. We're going to use that to poke the jet holes. Now I'm using a cotton reel, but all you need is something that is solid and 1.25 inches in height or length. We're going to use that as the jig to hold the blade as we slice the cans to length. A pair of needle nose pliers, because we're going to do a little bit of crimping to reduce the diameter of one of them, and a pen. So we're going to start off by getting one of the cans and the cotton reel, and then we're going to put the blade on top of the cotton reel and rotate the can to score a line all the way around. holding both items down firmly against the table. You don't need to push hard. The main thing is to just get an accurate line. And then you go around again and again and again. It takes about 3 revolutions. And then voila! We've cut off the bottom of the can, clean up any burrs, and then we're going to do the same with the top. We're going to cut the top off. Now I've got one that I prepared here earlier, and I've left the top in this one. See how this one's open, but the one we're working on now, we're going to leave the top in. It's a new idea. It's a variation on one that they call the penny stove. The penny stove has an enclosed top, and once it's lit, you drop a penny over the small filling hole, and that stops the burn and directs all the burn to the outside. So the first thing we're going to do is, on the top, we're going to divide it into 12 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to divide each of those into 3. So you'll end up with marks approximately 1 centimetre, which is 3/8 of an inch, apart from each other. And then we're going to grab that little push pin, and we're going to go round, and about 1/8 of an inch, 3 millimetres from the very top, we're going to poke a hole. On each one of them, all the way around, 12 holes. You can do more, you can do less, but I've found 12 is a good number. 16 also works, but it uses more fuel faster. So it all depends what you're after. Something to simmer on or something to boil on. You can't turn these up or down. It's best to have 2. One is for simmering, one is for boiling. Then we're going to make one of these. This band is made from another part of the can, and it must be 1/4 of an inch longer. I'm outside, as you can guess, so we haven't got poltergeists, that's the wind. We're going to have to make this band 1/4 of an inch longer. It's going to fit into this groove at the top. Now that groove at the top is a bigger diameter than the groove at the bottom. So this sleeve that we make is going to have to be slightly tapered, and it will make fitting a little bit more awkward. But what it's doing is it's producing 2 skins very close together, and as the mess warms up, capillary action will pull it up between those skins, and it will heat, vaporize, pressurize, blow out of the jets, and ignite, just like a gas ring. Right, so now we have this piece. We've cut it over length. We overlap the 2 ends, and what you've got to do is make sure it's well seated into the groove, and then midway between the ends of the 2 pieces, make a little mark, on both sides. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut halfway through the material, and we're going to cut halfway from the bottom on one and halfway from the top on the other. That'll give us an interlocking piece that will allow us to slip it back together exactly the right diameter. Okay. And they just slot inside each other. Wiggle and a jiggle. And bits in. There you go. And that locks it together. Another quick. Now, because it's got to be tapered, because the top end of the can is a slightly different diameter to the bottom end, we have to just put it out of parallel slightly, and that will mean that two little ears pop up, and we'll need to cut those off in order for it to seat efficiently. It's a devil of a job getting this right, because you've got three pieces of very thin aluminium to contend with, plus in a moment we're going to have to get the fiberglass in between as well, the wicking. So you have to use all your fingers, put your tongue out of the right side of your mouth. Now I'm just putting some little nicks in the bottom so that when it's pushed into the groove, meths can still creep into this outside chamber between the walls from the central reservoir. There we go. 4 will be enough. Now what I'm going to do is crimp about every centimetre all the way round the bottom part. Not a deep crimp. This is only about 3/8 of an inch, 10 millimetres deep, and it will bring the edge inwards so that the top part can slide down over it, making it into one unit. And here we go with the assembly. The inner wall goes in, making sure it's up the right way and well seated. Quick test fit. Now the next thing we're going to be doing is putting the wick in. The wicking is fiberglass insulation material. Try and go with the fibres of the natural, try to go with the natural grain of how the stuff wants to go. Lay it around, don't pack it too tight. We need just enough to soak up the meths and help with its delivery. Now this is only an idea. The other two that I've already made have nothing inside them. The genuine Tramontina one, I wouldn't have a clue. I don't know whether that's got it in there or not. But here we go, drum roll. This is the bit. We've got to assemble all these bits and have them end up with everything in the right place. So you start out real square, checking all the way around, using the printing on the label as a guide. Tuck in any bits that are hanging out. Once you've gone around and made sure that the whole thing is tucked in, I think this is just the last little bit here. Use all your fingers. Here we go. I think we're ready for the squeeze up. Here we go. Keeping it nice and square all the way around. Just work your way around it, bringing it down, and you'll feel the inner wall locate into the two grooves, and it will come to a hard stop. And there you go, finished stove. As a fuel, I'm going to be using methylated spirits, which I believe in the States is known as denatured alcohol. It's exactly the same stuff, except we put a colouring in it to stop people drinking it. This is it here. Now I've worked out that half an ounce of meths just takes it to the top of the dome in the bottom of the can. So I'll put in just half an ounce, very small amount. That's enough for 15 minutes in the other two stoves that I've made, which is well enough to boil. Well, I'm not inside just yet. I did go and put the frying pan on top of it with some tofu and chickpeas, just to give that a warm up for lunch. So here we are, nice spread of heat in the cast iron pan. But we'll whip it inside, put it on the bench. Now I'm going to put half an ounce in, which is about 15 mil, and that's just enough to take it to the top of the domed bottom of a beer can. 2 cups of water, and we'll light that up. And we'll see how long it takes to come up to temperature without that horrible wind that we've got outside. Here we go. And there's just a transition. It's great how it just comes along like that. Now that can be then cooked on. Pot over the top of it. Now remember I said that this was my version of the penny stove. Well, here's my penny going over the filling hole, and that is supposed to stop evaporation and make the stove more economical. So we'll put the trivet over it, and that will spread the flame out for a pan. I'm pretty happy with that. Absence of yellow, nice bluish flame. It's going well. I'm going to get the others out now, and we'll do a little bit of a comparison. This one is the genuine Tramontina from Italy. How about that? That was something like 7 seconds until it was burning, as it should be. They're a lovely, well sorted little cooker. If I can one day replicate this, I'll be very, very happy. But they're about $70 to buy, so I'll be quite happy with the beer cans. They've each got half an ounce of gas in them, and we're going to light them. 1, 2, 3, and start the clock. Genuine Tramontina, fired up and gasifying already. The middle one is my high capacity burner, and the one on the right hand side is my low capacity burner. They're both taking longer to get going. Here we go, the middle one, the high capacity one is just coming into action. Now I've discovered that by putting one little hole on the inside high up, it stops this pulsing. The Tramontina doesn't do it, and the one on the right doesn't do it, because they both have tiny little breathing holes. The one in the middle doesn't have that breathing hole and does this pulsing. Now the high capacity one in the middle is very similar to the Tramontina in performance. The one on the right hand side is much more frugal, burns for 5 minutes longer, and is a little bit cooler. Don't worry about that yellow looking flame. When a pot's put on it, all of them settle right down to a nice blue controllable flame. I'm a big fan of this kind of stove. It's simple, it's extremely lightweight, it's so cheap because you can make it yourself. It will cost you a can of beer. It's ideal for camping. You can put these into an enclosure and end up with something that is a lot more like a normal stove to use. The only thing is you can't turn it up or turn it down. You have separate burners. You have a boiling burner and a simmering burner. And this particular design, if filled right to the top, will run for half an hour. And that's plenty of time to get anything cooked. So I highly recommend it for a SHTF situation, bug out. It's all you need. For camping or for an alternative to gas, I'd go with this every time. Okay, if you found this video useful, why not hit the like button? If you'd like to see more of this kind of thing, the subscribe button's down on the right hand side. Don't forget to ring the bell.